Pulcinella thought he had one perfect hostage, 5 capitals, 5 bombs, and agents already waiting in the sky. The room had no answer. If he stalled long enough, every nation would bleed. But Velgrynd had already moved. By the time he said it out loud, the bombs were no longer his. AI Anime and Manga presents. If you're enjoying the story, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the next episode reach the right fans. YouTube members also get early access while helping cover AI narration, subtitles, thumbnails, and renders. Now, let's return to the moment Pulcinella learns that touching Velgrynd was a mistake. Pulcinella, after Velgrynd had so rudely thrown him aside, could not understand what had happened. The power he had just gained might not have reached the level of Cornu, one of the 3 mystic leaders, but Pulcinella was certain it was absolute by the standards of this world, and yet he was racked with unbearable pain. In his mind, panic broke through the arrogance. What was happening? Why was he feeling pain like some ordinary human being? The answer was simple. Velgrynd's dark red cardinal aura could burn anyone who touched it to ashes. She had gone as easy on him as she could because she had not intended to kill him back there. She had also assumed that a brief brush with that aura would teach him not to do anything foolish again. But Pulcinella was far more drunk on the idea of being king than she had realized. He had failed to see reality, and now he was stepping into territory he never should have entered. Pulcinella tried to recover his pride by calling it clever, as if his own surprise attack had been some brilliant move. Those were the words of a tried and true minion, one who had no idea how wide the gap between them really was. Not even Velgrynd could have imagined someone addressing her that way. So she gave him no more thought and turned to her next concern. Billy and David were still facing each other. Velgrynd slipped up behind David and slapped her hand down on his head. The blow was infused with cardinal aura, and the Yohma inside him was instantly vaporized. It was an astonishing show of force, but for Velgrynd that was simply normal. As she did this, Pulcinella realized he was in trouble. He stepped toward Delia and barked an order at her. "Give me your spear." Delia stared at him, confused. "You cannot access its full power anyway," Pulcinella snapped. "It would be far happier with me than in the hands of a worthless coward like you." His logic was faulty, but that did not stop him from snatching the spear away. The moment he held it, he felt its power. It made him laugh. Now, he thought, victory was certain. Delia was thrown to the ground. Her former teammates immediately ran to her. Bright spoke for the entire team as he asked whether she was all right. Hearing his voice, Delia let a tear fall down her cheek. She tried to reject the kindness. "Do not be stupid. I am not human. I am a Yohma who invaded this world." Bright answered without hesitation. "But you are crying. Those tears are all the proof we need that you are still human." Delia could only whisper his name. The others pressed closer. They reminded her that she still had all her memories. They told her to chase the Yohma out, and then Katerina, tears in her eyes, gave the kind of encouragement only an old friend could get away with. "Come on, you are too brazen a woman to let a Yohma beat you." At that moment, Delia felt something shatter in her heart. Then her usual temper came back with it. She told Katerina to apologize before continuing that cheerleader act, because what exactly did she mean by calling her brazen? Katerina held Delia and stood by the insult with tears still falling. "You are too brazen to go down this easily," Katerina said. "That much, I believe." The rest of the 7 sacred treasures joined her. No more words were needed. Seeing her friends shout for joy one after another, Delia smiled from the bottom of her heart. Pulcinella watched the scene and sniffed at them. To him, this was exactly why humans were so worthless. David had regained his sanity thanks to Velgrynd. Delia had been the last person still loyal to Pulcinella, but her human consciousness had clearly won out. Even Amari looked unreliable now. His human side seemed to have the upper hand, and Pulcinella doubted he would fight beside him. Even so, Pulcinella did not see a problem. He was still powerful, and now he held one of the strongest weapons in the world. He considered the spear in his hands. It truly was a god-class menace. It was not even trying to recognize him as its master, but it was still strong enough for him. With it, he believed he could easily take care of the annoying woman called Velgrynd. If nothing else, Pulcinella was endlessly optimistic. The sad part was how little he understood his place. Even inside his mind, though, alarm bells were ringing. He began poring over the knowledge the vanished Yohma had given him, searching for anything related to Velgrynd. If he could examine it closely enough, perhaps he could find the answer. Pulcinella declared that he could only rely on himself now, and that he would take care of Velgrynd personally. Velgrynd looked at him. "I am sorry. Are you referring to me?" Pulcinella called her a foolish woman and began to demand who else he could possibly mean. He did not finish. Velgrynd struck him. He had openly demonstrated his intent to kill. That was a mistake. Velgrynd had ignored him this long because he had not interested her, but now she recognized him as an enemy. Even then, the attack she landed had been measured. There was still a chance Pulcinella could return from his Yohma self. The problem was that he had done little more than take over the Yohma's will. The core of it was still inside him. Velgrynd's blow shattered that core for good. She smiled and said that her job was done. David and Emil had had their Yohma powers plucked out by Velgrynd, leaving them ordinary humans again. Amari, Lee, and Delia had overcome their Yohma without outside help. Their mystic powers remained, but in Velgrynd's eyes that was not a problem. Pulcinella, meanwhile, had just had the Yohma core inside him destroyed. That should have meant the power was gone. But something was not quite right. Pulcinella began to laugh, thanking Velgrynd as if she had done him a favor. He said the hateful seal that had been blocking his powers had finally been removed. He had fully taken in his Yohma powers now. They began transforming him on the outside. His skin turned light blue, his eyes glowed red, and unlike the lower-level mystics, wings like an angel spread from his back. The gear his Yohma had possessed became holy robes, ancient enough to be among the finest things the legend class could offer. The spear he had stolen from Delia transformed as well, becoming a kachara, a staff crowned with metal rings. The weapon had accepted Pulcinella as its owner. He still lacked the magicules to unleash its full power, but he felt as if his magical energy had doubled. Pulcinella felt he had reached the peak of his life. His arrogance grew alongside his strength. Now he truly believed no one could stop him. Velgrynd was almost offended. She wondered if he was really that much of an idiot, but as an absolute font of strength, she saw no need to panic. Pulcinella, not realizing any of this, laughed loudly. With this power, he suggested, perhaps he could even defeat Lord Cornu himself. That was how omnipotent he felt. His power had indeed risen to the level of an awakened demon lord, and he felt he had surpassed every limit placed on him before now. But he was measuring those achievements with a very tiny yardstick. Velgrynd could not help correcting him. Forget it. Cornu is at least 10 times more powerful. It would not even be close. Pulcinella was enraged by the derision. He said it was sad that some fools did not understand how the world worked. Everyone else in the room had the same thought. He should say that to himself. Only then did Velgrynd realize Pulcinella was talking about her. She could not understand why. His attitude suggested that he thought he could defeat her, but she could not imagine what basis he had for that belief. Velgrynd had known the Yohma for a long time. She could not believe someone among them would not know who she was. That might have been understandable for the lowest-level mystics, but Pulcinella was a high-end one, a former angel connected to the 3 mystic leaders. At the mention of the strongest of the true dragons, fear should have been the natural response. But Pulcinella's reaction was too unnatural. It gave Velgrynd pause. She wondered if she was making some kind of mistake. She asked him whether, when he said fool, he had been referring to her. After her long journey, Velgrynd had grown surprisingly patient. She would describe herself as a graceful and piteous woman. Even if that was not entirely true, she had definitely cultivated a gentler side of herself than before. That was why she asked instead of immediately flying into a rage. Pulcinella took it as permission to get carried away. He said Velgrynd did not realize the truth. She might have some strength, but outside this world there was an even greater world. That was when Velgrynd understood. Pulcinella really did not know. He had overcome his Yohma self and was moving by his own will. At the same time, Velgrynd pitied him. Masahiko Amari had been taken over, but he had used the experience to gather as much Yohma knowledge as possible. Pulcinella, on the other hand, had wanted nothing but power. That was why he had grown so arrogant. He did not even know the most essential facts. The realization left Velgrynd more exasperated than angry. She turned toward Gensei and the others, ignoring Pulcinella as he kept talking. She asked what they thought should be done with him. She explained that she had broken his Yohma core, but his power remained intact. At this rate, even she could not fully handle it. By handle it, she meant taking his powers away. Pulcinella misunderstood her completely. He laughed, claiming it was too late for Velgrynd to get cold feet. He thought she was admitting that she could not defeat him. No matter what happened, Pulcinella always found a way to believe things were breaking in his favor. Then he offered to make her his underling if she admitted defeat. He said she would appreciate his mercy when he appointed her to her new place. Velgrynd silenced him with another slap. Pulcinella could not react. Only then did he begin to wonder whether he was making a terrible mistake. He hurriedly searched through his memories but found nothing. When Velgrynd destroyed the Yohma core, all the memory data attached to it had vanished. No. A sense of dread overcame him, and he could not even define why. Velgrynd left him to that fear and turned back to Gensei. She said that if she let this man live, he would present problems for all of them. She thought it would be better to kill him and asked what they thought. Whether Pulcinella lived or died mattered little to Velgrynd personally. But no matter what she chose, she could not simply leave him like this. As long as Oharu was alive and Velgrynd remained to protect him, things would be fine. After that, there was no telling. When Oharu died, Velgrynd would hurry to the next soul fragment of Ludora and would no longer care what happened on this world. If Pulcinella remained alive after that, no one here would be able to stop him. Velgrynd also knew that Ludora's reincarnations returned to this world cyclically through a family bloodline. Letting Pulcinella do whatever he wanted with the planet was not in her interests either. Neither Gensei nor anyone else could stop him. That much was clear. Dispatching Pulcinella here and now was the quickest path for everyone. Gensei understood but hesitated. There was nobody from Greater Rossium in the room. Killing one of that empire's greatest heroes would leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth. They all knew it was the right call, but nobody was eager to embrace the consequences. Velgrynd knew that, which was why she wanted more opinions. She was not keeping Pulcinella alive out of kindness. She had concluded that killing him right now could cause Oharu untold trouble later. So she left the decision to the others. It would not be easy. They were all from other nations. If they discussed it and decided to let Pulcinella off the hook, Velgrynd was prepared to accept that. Amari knew what she was doing, and so did everyone else. That knowledge emboldened them to speak freely. Amari said they had no choice but to execute Pulcinella. He offered to tell everyone that he had done it while possessed by his Yohma. If Greater Rossium demanded someone in custody, Amari said they could offer him. Gensei agreed Pulcinella needed to die, but rejected the idea that Amari had to sacrifice himself. They could give Greater Rossium the whole story and try to win them over. David added that if reasoning with them failed, Aziria would be glad to apply the right kind of pressure. Billy thought David's words might be misconstrued, but agreed that execution was the right choice. Emile invoked his grandfather Laurent Hayes, saying that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that Pulcinella had nobody but himself to blame. Between Billy and Emile, the decision was unanimous among the Azirians. Remembering Laurent Hayes and how he had only relied on Velgrynd for the most trivial things, made Velgrynd smile a little. The reaction from the Chinese fiefdoms was tacit approval. Greater Rossium had invaded them. There was little love lost between the two sides, so they politely avoided saying too much. The Artians, on the other hand, wanted blood. One said they could make up any story afterward and should kill him. Another wanted to tear him apart for pushing Delia down and stealing her weapon. The rest agreed. Given that one of their own had been hurt, they had no reason to hold back their emotions. Hearing all this, Pulcinella realized just how dire the situation was. At this rate, he thought, Velgrynd really might kill him. Before she could, he needed a way out. He secretly concentrated his full mind and body on that one goal. Then he noticed Velgrynd had her back turned. Any pride he had as a man of the cloth vanished. The laws of chivalry meant nothing on the brink of death. Pulcinella launched a surprise attack and shouted that Velgrynd was going to die under the might of his full-force strike. The attack was Divine Dispelling Light of Destruction, a secret and forbidden spiritualist skill that used divine blessings to destroy evil and its servants. Pulcinella poured his Yohma power into it as well, creating a flow of energy greater than anything this world had ever measured. The shock waves alone caused tremendous damage. The earth shook. The air itself seemed to grind. The base that had been remade into the Yohma headquarters began to collapse under the strain. That base was impervious to airstrikes and could even serve as a nuclear fallout shelter, but it was not enough. The space between Pulcinella and Velgrynd was buried in less than a second. Anyone watching could see the destructive force clearly. Pulcinella believed he had won. No life form could withstand that force. Now, he thought, he would be ruler of the world. Then he saw the truth. The energy, shaped like a spear, had struck Velgrynd's unguarded back. But she was not hurt. It had not worked. It could not have worked. He was fighting Velgrynd. Energy great enough to destroy the entire continent had been neutralized and dissipated in a single instant. Velgrynd asked him, as if nothing had happened, whether he could wait quietly until they reached a conclusion. Then Pulcinella knew he could never defeat her. If he had given up at that moment, perhaps things might have ended differently. But there was no point theorizing about that. Pulcinella never knew when to quit, and he was about to reveal something he never should have touched. He admitted he had never imagined someone stronger than himself existed on this world. It was a grave miscalculation, he said, but Velgrynd still could not touch him. Velgrynd asked why. Pulcinella said he was a careful man. He had always pretended to be good so no one would bear a grudge against him. He had only stopped pretending because he thought victory was assured. He had never expected someone like Velgrynd. Even so, he insisted, victory was still his because he had already taken the necessary measures. Velgrynd told him to stop stalling and give the summary. Pulcinella dragged it out anyway. He explained that Aziria, Greater Rossium, and Arcia had all been working on a new kind of bomb. They used the same principle, though each nation had its own design. What mattered was the force of the weapon. Velgrynd asked if he meant to use those bombs to kill her. Pulcinella said no. He believed he could survive the blast, and if he could, surely she could as well. Velgrynd asked why he was bringing it up at all. Pulcinella told her not to rush him. He claimed he understood her anxiety. He was teasing her now, deliberately irritating her. Velgrynd knew it. Pulcinella was the kind of coward who would try a sneak attack while people were debating whether to kill him. Taking him out immediately was clearly correct, but she listened anyway. The reason was simple. She wanted to prevent future trouble. If Pulcinella was going to reveal his scheme to her, it was only polite to hear the whole thing. Besides, she was sure things would be fine no matter what trick he had prepared. So Velgrynd kept listening with a placid mind. Then Pulcinella announced his plan, and the smile left her face. He said he would steal the bombs and set them off above the capitals of each nation. His agents were already in place. It was too late for anyone to stop it. The room erupted. Someone shouted that he was insane because the attack would claim countless innocent lives. Another warned that destroying the leadership of every nation would destroy all sense of order. Amari pointed out that the Yohma's basic plan was to raise humanity into future bodies, not annihilate them. Pulcinella smiled at the panic. He said it was lovely to hear. He claimed it pained him too, and admitted that Amari was right in principle. Humanity should grow and thrive. But there were far more humans than Yohma. In his mind, being possessed by a Yohma was enough to help people survive the era of war. The Yohma would not be affected, and afterward they would simply collect the survivors and raise them instead. His logic was warped, but it was not harmless. Strategically, it was dangerous. Amari fell quiet. Gensi turned pale as he looked toward Velgrynd. Pulcinella had been stalling for time, no doubt. The plan was moving forward even as he spoke. There was nothing Gainsay or anyone else could do now. The only possibility left was Velgryn's teleportation. There would be many casualties, but the leaders of each nation had to be brought to safety. Fortunately, those leaders were all evacuated to the conquering Empire of Japan at that moment. Gensei assumed Velgrynd could guarantee their escape. That was why he looked at her. He regretted it instantly. What he saw was an angry goddess. Pulcinella's scheme had pulled her wrath to the surface. Pulcinella continued, failing to read the room. He claimed it pained him to see innocent people die. If he could, he would avoid it. Then he tried to negotiate. If Velgrynd let him go, he would give her Japan, or even half the world. With the bombs as leverage, he thought he had material to bargain with. That was wishful thinking. Velgrynd called him lowlife. She said she had not minded how he targeted her, no matter how low he stooped. But she would not allow him to do anything that involved her man. He would never return to the cycle of life. She would crush his soul and grant him eternal suffering. At her core, Velgrynd was a vengeful woman. She was strong, and that strength let her stay above most things. But once the switch flipped, rage came with it. Pulcinella tried to backpedal. He insisted he had no interest in Oharu. Then he begged her to listen. His people, he said, would detonate the bombs unless he ordered them to stop. They were on standby above the capitals of all 5 nations. He pleaded for everyone to take a deep breath. Velgrynd cut him off and told him to shut up. She had taken care of that long ago. Pulcinella could not understand. No one else in the room could either. It did not sound like a bluff. It had the ring of truth. But how could Velgrynd protect 5 different countries while staying in the conference hall? The answer was parallel existence. Velgrynd would never leave Oharu's side for any reason, so the conquering empire was safe. She could also travel instantly to any place she had visited before, and she had already been to Azyria, Arcia, Rossium, and the Chinese fiefdoms. That meant there was no problem. All she had needed to do was send out parallel existences, move them to each nation, find the Yohma hiding there, and blow them away along with their bombs. The task was already done. Pulcinella refused to believe it. He said it was impossible, completely impossible. Then he frantically reached out to his agents. Silence answered him. They had been silenced long before now. Faced with that reality, Pulcinella's face twisted in terror. In the most literal sense, he finally understood how boundlessly dangerous the beautiful woman before him really was. He begged her to forgive him. Velgrynd refused with a simple, almost playful no. It is said that nothing is scarier than the smile of an angry woman. Everyone there now knew that was true. Pulcinella screamed and ran. Velgrynd spoke the name of the attack. Cardinal Acceleration! Behind the fleeing Pulcinella, there was a flash like a supernova. Searing rays of heat swallowed him, and Pulcinella's soul was crushed into nothing. That was not the only damage. Velgrynd had meant to keep the scale as small as possible, but even restrained, the attack carried enough force to wipe out 1/3 of the continent. The survivors could only stare blankly. The goddess before them seemed beautiful and fearsome. By the way, Velgrynd's Cardinal Acceleration caused damage in places far removed from this world as well. The shockwaves riding through dimensional combo crossed time-space boundaries and reached Cornu, the 3 mystic leaders' boss connected to the Yohma that had possessed Pulcinella. Trying to open and enlarge the underworld gate on this world had come back to haunt Cornu. Because of that connection, he lost his entire army and suffered injuries so grievous that they would take several decades to recover from. The fallout was nothing short of shocking, but that was none of Velgrynd's concern. After Oharu had been briefed on everything, his first impression was that goddesses had always been like that. Clearly, he said, much of the fault belonged to the humans who angered her. Velgrynd apologized. She said she had thought she was turning the power down pretty low, but apparently she packed more of a punch than she realized. Trying to say it in a cutesy voice did not help. But Oharu did not call her out on it, and if he would not, no one else was about to. Velgrynd had done it. There was nothing left but to forgive her. Fortunately, although the word devastating did not even begin to describe the damage, Pulcinella was the only one who died. The area between the Azyrian naval base that the Yohma had used as headquarters and the hidden cove they had used as a military port was completely obliterated. The shockwaves shook the ocean and caused large-scale natural disasters. But Velgrynd quelled them before anything serious happened. Steam from the evaporated seawater created storms, so she used climate control to make them vanish. The wrecked cove became a small mountain of pure magma, and that was already handled too. Some forested land and other areas were lost, but Velgrynd aimed high healing at the land itself. It made no sense to the observers, but by the end of the day, she had created entirely new environments. The geography of the world had changed irrevocably, but the actual impact was surprisingly low. That was the conclusion people reached. And that marked the end of the Yohma invasion. All solved with the help of one moody goddess.
Route confirmed. The next episode and full playlist are ready.
Then don't stop here. Keep watching in story order and subscribe before the next part drops.